Welcome to Weeping Willow Blues, part 3 of the series, and this is the Wizz Jones versions. An earlier one from 1966 and a much more recent one from just a couple of years ago, which you can find on YouTube. There's one thing I should probably emphasise here, which is all these versions just illustrate the blues tradition of taking a tune that you like, learning what you want from it, adapting it to your style. So it's more like an attitude to a song, to a composition, than the actual nuts and bolts of the composition itself. So there are elements that identify the song as Weeping Willow Blues, the lyrics to a certain extent, the chord figures, some of the sixths, for example, the minor 4 chord, those kind of things that identify as this song. But on top of that foundation, there's obviously all kinds of variations you can apply, and that's what I think these different versions illustrate. So to begin with, Wizz Jones's recording on his 1966 album with Pete Stanley. Capo is on 4, and we're in this key, of course, A, or what looks like A and what I'm going to call A major, and it's very different from the Blind Boy Fuller recording. Wizz has adapted it to his own kind of Big Bill Broonsy style of kind of driving 4 to the bar swing, whereas the Blind Boy Fuller has a kind of more of a jaunty, ragtimey feel about it. And I'm not going to be using tab here. If you want tab, you can kind of refer back to what I've shown on the other 2 episodes, which should give you enough clues. But of course, you should be able to pick up enough from this, from watching what I'm doing and from listening in the good old-fashioned style. Okay. Right, so this is where we're starting, and there's a little pickup, a classic blues pickup. So sliding up here to 4th fret on these 2 strings, and the 5th fret on the 1st string. So it's a kind of, you can think of it if you want, as a B7 or as a, maybe that's more in the style of the tune, a diminished chord here, but not playing the 3rd string. So just these 3 triplets here, just on the 1st and 2nd beats, 1, 2, 3, and then off, open strings, and then there's pull off here on the 4th string, 2, 1, 0, and onto the A root on the next downbeat. Then we have like a 2/4 bar leading into 4 beats on the E7. That kind of thing, just a standard E7 chord here. And in Broonsy style, Wizz has got his thumb really just hammering out those damped 6th and 5th string notes. Okay, I will talk about the right hand in a second, but to start with, I'm just going to be looking at the left here. So leading out from the E7 into the opening A chord of the verse, there's a hammering onto the A here, the 3rd string, and then hitting the A bass. So the first bar is something like this. It's behind the vocal, rather hard to hear exactly what's happening. So it sounds a little bit like he's imitating the vocal here, because he's singing Weeping Willow. So there's that note in there, you know. It's not there. He doesn't play it there in the instrumental verse, which of course I'll come to later. But that's something you could do, especially if you're not confident with your voice. You know, Weeping Willow. You play it on the guitar first. Weeping Willow. That kind of thing. There's not really a sense of sliding into the chord here, which he does later on. It's just a hammer on. Something simple to accompany the vocal like that. Then we're going into the D minor chord. Again, open string, hammering into the chord, And the bass is still the bottom 2 strings, open 2 strings. Thumb strokes like that. Just the 1 bar. A little embellishment here, either a pull off or a hammer on, anything you like there really. And then an anticipation of back on the A chord, so that's on the 4 and of the D minor bar. Like that. Then there's a kind of 2 beats break, and then there's this riff that he plays, which is kind of based on the Blind Boy Fuller, but a little bit different. So it comes out of the D minor like this. Now, this is the distinctive riff here in this version. So he's sliding up on the first 2 strings, 3rd and 2nd strings, still going with the, the damped bass note here, the damped E bass. So it's up there like that, open strings, and then what seems to be an E7 chord played like this, at least fretted like that, middle 4 strings, B, D, G sharp, B, and then into back to the A like that. The G sharp is not played very clearly, it kind of sounds like it's there, but the main effect you get is this 5th string, 2nd fret note, and it's on beat 3 of what's a 4/4 bar now. So it's coming out of the D minor, 1, 2, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's kind of, there's actually 10 beats before the second line. So you can split those 10 beats really any way you like, but there's like a 2/4 breathing space, and then this 4-beat riff. And also he's putting in a 3rd fret on the 6th string, the G here, back to the open A. Now there's a right hand technique here. This is kind of what Blind Blake used to do, a kind of rolling bass, and he'll be using the thumb on both strings. But I think what Wizz is doing here, from the sound of the strings, there's a definite kind of twang here. Let me just show you my right hand for this. So Wizz had a good driving thumb, and mostly he's just doing this, okay, on damping the bass strings here. It didn't use a thumb pick, it's just the side of the thumb. Doesn't really matter which strings you hit, it just keeps that groove going. Now when that bass note comes in between the beats, it could be done that way. Alright. The way I prefer to do it, now I don't know if he did it this way, but it does give a slightly more positive effect on that G bass, is so now I've got my index finger on the beat here. Let me just slow that down. Okay, so that's my suggestion there. If you can do it with your thumb, or even if you have a thumb pick, that's obviously going to give you a much stronger attack if you can get that kind of rolling bass in there. Personally, I find it makes it a little bit clumsy getting the riff working at that speed. Okay, so back with the left hand. I might come back to the right hand for some other details later on. So just to play through the first line now of the tune, and it's 2 bars of vocal, and then the 2 bars with the riff with the extra 2 beats in there somewhere. So from the E leading into the verse. Something like that. Now the D minor again for the second line. Again, the open E and A, so there's no F here, as Bert Jansch would have played it. Just these kind of dead bass strings to keep the groove going. Back to the A, and again the same 10 beat sequence. Then the E7, a D7 with an F sharp bass. In fact, I think it's still the open E bass here, under the vocal anyway. So E7, D7. Now, a classic little turnaround here. Now, it's quite difficult to do at speed, but his tempo is actually, let me just put the metronome on here, the tempo he was recording at, which is 118. So that's about as fast as I can play that. That sort of thing. And there's 5 beats then in the turnaround here. Let me just stop that a second. So I'll slow it down. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 5. And how you split that is really how you feel it. If you want to go with how he played it, which I think is instinctive really. It's like you're starting the turnaround from the A. That's starting on the second beat of the 4/4 bar, and that would be the downbeat of the next bar. But then you get 4 beats on the E7, so it kind of works like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so it's a kind of, I think that's how he's feeling it, that it needs 4 beats on the E. So you get 1A and then you get 4 on the E7 there. Most of us, of course, I expect would play it, stick to 4/4 or all the way, like something like this. And then back to the A. Okay, so there's a second verse after that, and then there's a slightly different turnaround. Again, another classic little turnaround. I think of this as the Robert Johnson turnaround. He's got the high A on the top here, and I think he's also got the 3rd string here under the index finger, and you're coming down the 4th string chromatically from the G here. Not triplets this time, just... Okay, and then again another 4 beats from there on the E7, so it's a 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. It's really the same principle that Bert Jansch said he applied, which he doesn't count 4, he counts 1, 1, 1, 1. So you're counting 1 kind of 9 times, 9 times here. Okay, so the first instrumental solo. There's some more interesting stuff going on here. Now he's doing a full slide on 3 strings, and it's almost like a triplet. It's not an immediate slide, it's more like a... And at speed it will be... Still that sense of the E7 there, okay? And the G comes in there as well. Of course you could play that as a hammer-on, so not picking it at all. But I think he does... Sounds like it's picked in some way, that. Sorry, just 1 bar on the A. And then into the D minor. This time, instead of in the bass, it's a top A there. So. So those first 4 bars of this solo. Now here's where the first little interesting change comes. So he's not going for a D minor here. Sliding up here. Okay, you can see where that is. It's still a D minor chord, so instead of here, it's there, okay? Sliding up the 3rd and 2nd strings and incorporating, of course, the open string now. So you get this little melody on the top. You can hear which strings they are, yeah? So it's 2nd, 3rd, open first, and then the 2nd again, and 3rd again. Does that twice, does that for each bar of the D minor. Sliding up both times. That's just a nice little example of how you can, change what you're. You don't have to play this D minor here. You can discover all kinds of other ways of playing it. And in my next session, my next part of this series on Weeping Willow, I'll be looking at a lot of this kind of stuff, all these other things you can do to make it more interesting, all right, by coming up the fretboard and finding all kinds of other stuff up here. Anyway, back to 1966. Back to the A again. Now this time to get to the E chord, that little run up here from the 4th fret here, alright, which is from the Blind Boy Fuller, but obviously a stock blues lick to lead up to the E. So those 2 bars before that. Again, standard E, E7. Now he's into the D7 over the F sharp. Little embellishment here on the 2nd string. And then another one of these classic blues turnarounds. This time sliding up the 4th and 2nd string, but adding, this is G on the 1st string as well. And sliding down the 2nd. Again, the 5 beats on the E7. So he's been quite consistent here with how he's feeling, how that works. 5 beats on the last bar there. So the second solo is identical to the first one for the first 8 bars, and at the end, on the last line, last 4 bars, it's really just a pretty generic kind of turnaround he plays. So there's no run up this time, just the riff ends like this. Yeah, on there, in the E7. This time on the D7. There's a little bend here on the 2nd string there. Standard stuff. And the A chord is played like this. So it's a very kind of Brunsy-esque thing here. Okay. The ending again is a pretty standard blues ending. Comes from the D7 chord over the F sharp, and then into the final A with this little, again, triplets here, 1, 2 and a 3 and a 4 Same little slide down here. Again, the slide into that last chord. Okay, so that's the 1966 version. Okay, so part 2, and we're fast forwarding now to 2022, a performance of Weeping Willow. You can find Wizz playing on YouTube. And I'm not going to spend a long time on this. You can see what he's doing on the video. I'm just going to try and show you it in a little bit more detail. Obviously he's a lot older, which means he's slower and he's lower. And it's a simplified version of the riff. It swings along really nicely. So, here we go. I think the video might have cut off the beginning, but it comes straight in on the beginning of the verse. Beginning of the instrumental solo, rather. But it's enough to show you this nice little version of the original Blind Boy Fuller one, where he's playing using the C sharp here, which I don't think he was using on the earlier version. And this is now the same thing as Bert Jansch does that as well. Okay, and the way Wizz is playing it is like this. Okay, so sliding up, and the thumb here is playing the lower line, and the fingers are playing on the top there. So slowing it right down, a nice little lazy slide up, making triplets there, and a nice kind of emphasis on here. I think he does a lot of his kind of shaking of the guitar there to get the vibrato working. So that's the rhythm. The tempo, by the way, is something like this, 104. With a good kind of positive attack as well. Don't hold back here, you know. And then straight to the D minor, so go over those in a bit more detail. Bar 1, D minor. So it's a 1 and 2 and. So beat 3 is syncopated there. And it's more or less like you hear the whole chord there. This is his D minor shape, okay, with the starting with the bass note here on the 4th string and the whole chord there on beat 2 and. And not a very clear beat 3. I think he is kind of aiming his thumb at those bass strings there, but it doesn't necessarily come out. And then back to damped E bass there, by the way, but only really on that beat 4 there. Otherwise, his thumb is busy, on that line. D minor. Again, more or less holding this shape. And E bass coming in there, not F, remember, just the E. And now into the E like this. Strumming the E, or picking it like this. Into the D7. Little pull off here, simple little pull off. And now we're into the Blind Boy Fuller turnaround. On beat 2. Bar on the 4th fret and the pull off 540 on the 1st string and 4th string 220 and an open 3rd, hammering on back into the A. So that whole bar, which is probably the trickiest one, then on the A, it's 2 beats on the A, and back to the E again, and 4 beats on the E7. It's more or less just strumming that. Maybe a bit of a syncopation there. Okay. So that's about it. I'll play it through to you once again. Something like that. There are turnarounds, of course. I think there's one of these, as in the previous version, the older version. Standard kind of stuff. For the ending, by the way, he does an interesting little run up here. So from the last A, what he does is this. Comes up from up to the A here. This is a C sharp and an E, 1 fret below, then carries on up 1 fret too far to come back to the, which is the E and the G, then back to this A7 chord, and he strums it in this kind of trademark index finger thing. Let me just show you that on the right hand. So this is a bit tricky to get the hand in the right position, but it's the middle finger, not the index. The index is kind of not touching the strings, but the middle finger is doing this kind of thing. Strumming backwards and forwards on the strings. Alright. You can probably work out other ways you can get a similar sound to that, but that's how Wizz is doing his last chord here. So part 4 of this series will be looking at Bert's later, some of his live versions of it. Extra little embellishments he added, different turnarounds, different fills, that sort of thing. And some other little ideas that you can have that have occurred to me for how you can play these chords. Some quite interesting little differences. Okay, I'll see you then.